Hey everyone, welcome back to 321 Showcasing the Space Coast. I'm Henry Mims, the deafest agent you know. And today I am here with Kim at ANEW Life. And we're here to kind of find out, anyone who knows me knows that things that are very close to my heart, organizations that are truly about serving the community and helping those in need. So without further ado, Kim, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I already know a little bit about, but for those that out there that don't know what exactly it is you do, and exactly what it is you're trying to move into, if you could tell everybody out there a little bit about what you do.
Okay, well, I am the founder of ANEW Life International. We're based here in Melbourne, and we work with survivors of human trafficking. So it is a thing here. That's one of the first questions I get asked. It's a thing everywhere. So it's a need that I saw that was very prevalent in our area, and I wanted to do something about it. So about maybe 8 years ago, I was in California actually visiting my son, and a woman came as a guest speaker to his church. Wow. And she was the founder of an organization out in California, and she was presenting on human trafficking. And I honestly thought it was a third world thing. I did not think it was here. I worked with women for domestic violence, I worked with kids, I worked with homeless. I didn't think it was a thing. And wow. So I pretty much dismissed it. So unfortunately. But when I was listening to this woman share about how prevalent it is and what is really going on, the United States is ranked in the top 3. I think they're number 1, but they're definitely number 1 as far as consumers of porn, of that whole nine. Won't go into all of that, but Florida is number 3 in the country for human trafficking.
Really?
Yep, and I believe that those numbers are underreported, but for the statistics that we do have, Florida is ranked number 3. So when I was listening to her present and just saw how incredible of a need it was, something was stirring inside of me. Right. We know that was God, right? And they were asking for volunteers for the upcoming Super Bowl to be on a task force to work behind the scenes with local law enforcement and FBI. And I'm an investigator. I'm a private investigator. I'm a researcher. So right. I've been doing background screening for 25 years. So that was right up my alley. And I love NFL football. So why wouldn't I want to go to the Super Bowl? Yeah. So it was like, me, pick me. So that was the beginning of my journey into working with, in some capacity, the folks that were combating human trafficking and trying to identify the young folks. So this was before Backpage got taken down. So I was one of the ones that was going on and finding the ads, giving the leads, developing the leads, giving them to law enforcement and FBI so that they could go and recover the girls.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, there's lots of us out there, but thank you. So that was really incredible, really eye-opening. And I did that every year. So I would take my 2 weeks of vacation each year, and when I was working full-time, and that's what I would do. I would go to a volunteer for that until the Atlanta Super Bowl. When Super Bowl was in Atlanta, I was there also, but my job shifted a little bit. It changed what I needed to do, and without going into detail of the things I was involved with behind the scenes, it showed me how what I did in clearing criminal records in my normal day-to-day life in background screening, how that coincided with what victims needed after they were out of the life.
Okay. So
because there's a lot of victims in jail and in prison because they're arrested for drugs or prostitution or whatever, and they're in jail. They're communicating still with the pimps outside or the pimps incarcerated. Either way, they're communicating both directions. and I just saw, here are victims of human trafficking that are eventually going to get out, hopefully, of the life. And for those that do, they needed an option. And in Florida, we have a law to where if it can be shown that these guys were victims of human trafficking at the time of the crime, they can be expunged.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So
I never knew that.
Yes, sir. So at the local level, at the county level where those cases are heard and sentenced, they're expunged. So they're no longer found. So when they go do a background check for employment or for a tenant, if they want to move into a house or apartment, they run background screens, right? They run a background check. The expungement at the county level is taken care of, but what they're finding, and which is part of what I do, is the local county doesn't report up to the state or the national a lot of times. So if you've got those mugshots that are out there online, if you've got residual case information out there in databases somewhere, there's a bazillion databases, right? If that information's still out there, nobody is going out there finding all that information and deleting it. So when someone does a Google search or they do a background check with a nationwide quote unquote database search, they're still pulling that information down. And these guys aren't getting jobs, they're not getting homes, they're not getting places to live because of that residual information. So I'm on my way home from Atlanta and start seeing all of this synchronicity and all these parallels with what I do for a career and what's needed in the anti-trafficking space, and seeing how they coincide. And it's like, oh my gosh. And honestly, I just started getting a download of this vision of not only working with victims and survivors to clear their expunged information, but then I started getting vision for safe homes and drop-in centers and big training centers and ministries to go into the jails and the prisons, and picking them up and bringing them to safety.
Right.
So they
need someplace to go.
Yeah. So
someplace safe to go.
Exactly. And different facets. So sometimes you have a need for emergency shelter. So maybe they need to, much like similar to a domestic violence situation, you need to get them out quickly, safely, anonymously, get them out. So sometimes we need to do that. From there, they typically will go into a program. Could be a year and a half, 2 years. Different programs are different lengths. But then that's when you're going to be able to identify and help folks through their complex trauma, address any drug addiction that was there, and just kind of unpack all the stuff depending on how long that person was being trafficked. Some folks are bred into the life. They're born on purpose and sold immediately as babies, as children. Others are, like you see, human trafficking isn't like the movies, like Taken. A lot of people see that. Now that does happen. Right. I don't want to discount that folks are abducted, because that does happen. So please be careful, please be aware. There have been several, even here locally, satellite movie theater, where 2 young ladies fortunately had the wherewithal to text their boyfriends, right. Like, there's 2 creeps that are sitting behind us, and they were able to divert that, and the cops were called, and they found a bunch of stuff in the car that was not good. So that was great. So all that to say, the abductions do happen. However, the majority of trafficking is happening right in front of our faces. It's happening in homes, in families, in schools, online. There's a lot of grooming and stuff that's happening online. So I just I got the name, ANEW Life International, and just all the stuff, and put it together. pretty quickly. We had lots of favor and was able to form the organization, and here we are. And so we just celebrated our 3rd anniversary. So, yay. And you were at our party, so thank you for your support.
I was so happy to be there, and one of the things when I was at the gala, so when I was there, just to see the lives touched, and to see there are a lot of people who would seem like society would outcast them, so to speak. Beautiful people though.
Yeah.
Beautiful hearts, beautiful people. And those are my kind of people. You know what I mean? Like if you don't want them, I'll take them. Come on over here. You know what I mean? But it's just the vision and the team that it takes. You know what I mean? And I'm sure with a lot of that, you also have to deal with a lot of the battling of people trying to say what they want to say, not knowing because they don't know what they don't know, right?
Right.
So, besides that, what are some of the kind of things, like, for example, I have kids. A lot of us out here that are watching this have kids. What are some of the things that we can, without trying to doom and gloom the kids? Because, again, there's a lot of things we're trying to protect them from.
Right.
Without trying to freak them out, what are some of the kind of things that we can try to build habits so that they can keep themselves safer? Because eventually they want to go down to the store and they want to do those kinds of things.
Right.
So, what are some of the things that we can do as parents to kind of say, hey guys, let's build a habit of this?
That's awesome. Well, those are great questions. And I love that as a parent, you're asking those. Yeah. There's a lot of parents that, for whatever reason, they don't want to deal with it. They don't realize that how prevalent it is. But there's some real easy things that you can do as parents. I think the number one thing for me, and when I'm speaking to audiences, the number one thing for a caregiver, whether you're a parent, grandparent, uncle, caregiver of whatever sort, is love your kids. And I know that sounds really simple, but turn that into an action of hearing them, listening to them, not making their opinion wrong. Let them feel heard. If you are, working on your phone as a parent and your kid runs up to you and it's, mom, 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 and then it's finally, what? What did you just communicate to your kid? Right. That whatever's on your phone is more important than they are. But if the first time they come up to you, it's, Mom, yeah, buddy, will you play this game with me? Instead of saying, I can't, or I'm in the middle of something, which sometimes happens, obviously. Parents, I know that we work, but put your phone down and say, yeah, I would love to. I want to be blue, right. And spend time with your child. Communicate, find ways to communicate with your actions. And especially little kids, they hear and see love through play. When you play with them, they feel loved. When you show up to their baseball game, they feel loved. You're communicating love. So the kids, my goal for ANEW is a 2-generational goal. That within 2 generations, I want vulnerability to be 0. Now I know that's maybe an idealistic, but if we can band together as parents and grandparents, and we can start pouring back into the lives of our children, the vulnerabilities will lessen. That is a fact. It will lessen. So when
they won't be looking outward.
They won't, exactly. So if they know their identity and know they're heard and know they're loved, that when that perpetrator approaches them online through gaming, which will absolutely happen, when they approach through social media, which absolutely is happening to your children every single day, when they get a text from someone that wants an inappropriate picture or an inappropriate video, and they're told how beautiful they are, and oh my gosh, you could be a model, etc., they're not hungry or as hungry for that. And the kids that are targeted are in that vulnerable age group anyway, right? The preteen, where they're trying to figure out, they're not kids anymore, they're not adults yet. Yep. Like, that's already a vulnerable place in life. They'll be less likely to buy into the perpetrator's lines because they will already feel heard, they'll feel loved. So that's a huge, huge thing. That's something you guys can do at home. You can do for free, and you both will win. It's just you will pour into your relationship, and you both will win. As far as technical things, practical things, I would encourage your kids not to accept friend requests from anybody they don't know in person, that they have not met. We had a young lady that has been talking to a friend through gaming for several years. Never met this person in person. Developed a relationship, and she turned 18. Now she was underage. She was a minor up until obviously she turned 18. Once she turned 18, that guy and his dad were coming here to get her and take her back with them. She was going to move in with that family, and it came to our attention, and we took some steps to try to divert that from happening and educate both her and mom. Fortunately, she did not end up going with them, but that's huge and that's real. So these kids are making friends online through their gaming, and on the games, you guys know you can separate off into private rooms. There's other chat functions that are private, that are end-to-end encrypted, making it really difficult to track. But if you can let your kids know, you don't know who's on the other side of that screen. You do not. They're very good, and like you said, I don't want to throw out oh my gosh, everybody is a creep that's out there, but that's a really good safety, that if you don't know these folks that you're gaming with, then don't add them to your social media. What's going to happen if they're added to your social media? All of a sudden you've got where you go to school, what your family looks like, where you live, like a lot of personal information that you just don't want out there. Another thing too is kids don't text photos or videos that are inappropriate to other friends at school, to other people. What often happens is what's called, there might be kids watching this, well, I'll just say it. So sextortion is when it's blackmail of what you've just put up there, either in text or in video. And then if you don't send more, then they threaten to tell the parents, or to blast it out on social media, or to hurt or harm your family. So I know that seems like extreme cases, but it happens all the time, unfortunately. So it's just taking the little steps of being careful. Don't put your address, tell your children, never give out your physical address, ever. If you want to double check your profiles and make sure that your physical address is not on your profiles, be careful. At Christmas time, you're going to see, or even like during COVID, they were like, just put your address out here and we'll drop off presents to your kids, and the anonymous whatever. It's like, don't do stuff like that. Be careful not to put your child's names on their backpacks that are visible to maybe a car that's driving by. So there's little things. I'm happy to answer questions too. You can message me, and there's a lot of things like that, but those are kind of the main ones. You just don't trust. It's kind of like stranger danger on the internet, right? So you don't talk to strangers in the park, and you don't talk to strangers online, especially if you've never met them in person. A lot of them too will friend your friends first, because I know for myself, if I get a friend request, what's the first thing I do?
You'll check to see who they know.
Yeah. Do I have any friends in common with this person? And then if this person's, well, I trust Henry, well, I trust my sister, well, I trust whomever, but we don't know if they really know those people or if they just quick added. You just never know. So if you don't know them personally,
don't assume,
don't engage, and be safe.
100%. So now, one of the things that I think is a little bit of a myth, and I think I would like you to touch on this, is a lot of people, they think human trafficking, they only think little girls. They only think women. They only think, I know that's not true. So, and a lot of times we spend so much time on the girls that we forget about the boys.
Right.
You know, at whatever age they may be, because there's always somebody big about it, whatever. So from the perspective of, I've heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard that a lot of the things that happen stem from 2 or 3 people that they knew different. Like for example, it could be an uncle that knew somebody. It could be somebody that knew you because they were watching their, whatever. I'm just saying football games just to kind of, because that popped up. But somebody that's been around a little bit besides the internet. Because although that is a huge thing, there's also the people that see you on the daily basis.
Right. Yeah.
So let's say, for example, somebody goes to the store, right? 10-year-old kid goes to the store, and they feel like somebody is coming up on them, or something is making them feel creepy. One of the things that I really get pissed off about is when people say, "Oh, don't worry about it." Oh, no. If you feel like a creep is creeping on you, say something.
Oh, yeah.
If you're wrong, you're wrong. Who cares?
Exactly.
If you're right, though. What is something that those kids could do, boy or girl, doesn't matter.
Right.
What is something that they could do if they feel like they're in a dangerous situation at the moment?
Yeah, great questions. And to your point, it absolutely happens to both boys and girls. It's males and females. It's any vulnerable population. These perpetrators are no respecter of people. The average age actually is, statistically anyway, is around 12 years old. Again, I think that's underreported. I think there's a lot more children involved than we know, because just to me, in my brain, if a child is hurt or harmed in this way, most of the time it's from a trusted adult. So it's someone that they know, and that is correct. It's a lot of times it's someone that they know. It's a neighbor, it's an uncle, it's a pastor, it's a teacher, it's a bus driver, it's someone that they're familiar with. If that person that they trust hurts them or is asking them and putting them in an uncomfortable position, how many children say anything?
Sure.
They don't usually say anything until they're much older, because they feel like it was their fault. They're scared. Maybe they were even threatened. I know several that don't say anything or else. So you've got these little kids that are trusting the adult, right? So they feel either an alliance or an allegiance to their mom, their dad, their grandfather, their uncle, their whomever that might be putting them in an awkward position, their brother, their sister. I know someone who was trafficked by her brother. So those little kids aren't going to say anything for several years, and maybe not even as an adult. And some of them are going to block it and not even realize that anything happened to them until they're an adult. So I just think there's a lot more children involved, and we just really need to pay attention. But what those kids can do, if they're, like I always say, trust your gut. So whether you're a kid or whether you're an adult, trust your gut. And to your point, if you're wrong, okay, at least you expressed concern, you did something about it, you were watching and were aware and cared enough to say something or do something. If you're right, you could save a life. So those kids, if they're in a grocery store or whatever, like the example that you gave us, like a convenience store. Yeah. So if you feel like there's a creeper that's watching you and kind of following you, then go up to the clerk. If there's a cop there, go up to the police officer, but go to the clerk and let them know, this person is scaring me, and hang out and wait for that person to leave. And then I would also suggest either have them walk you out to your bike or to the car that you came from. See if anybody, if you've got a cell phone, text your mom, text your dad. If somebody's in the car waiting for you, there's things you can do. And if you are super scared and nobody is around that can help you, if you do have a phone, call 911. I mean,
Absolutely.
call the police officer and get somewhere. If you have to go into a room and lock the door, maybe it's the bathroom at a store, lock the door so nobody can come in, call the police. If it's something where you can, if you're an older person or even a kid that's proficient with a cell phone,
Right.
take a picture of the person.
I would have never thought of that.
Take a picture of the car. You know, if there's a car that's following you, take a picture of the car.
Oh my God, I would have never thought of
Try
that.
to get the license plate. I have a beautiful young lady that I'm working with right now, and she's super brave, and she just gets license plates all the time.
Oh, wow.
She sends them in, so we can, you know, folks can run plates, and we can track people that way. But there's little things like that you can do. I heard one time somebody said, if you're in a situation, just start yelling and screaming at the top of your lungs, because the person does not want attention brought to them. So just start freaking out, flipping out. I mean, that might be a tactic too.
Right.
I would not do that if you are not in the middle of like a Wawa. If I was in the middle of a Wawa, I would do that.
Yeah.
Because you've got cameras on you, you've got stuff, and that guy is gonna run out scared to death. But I would definitely call somebody that, you know, if you're there, maybe you walked a half a mile from home to go get a 7-Up or something,
Right.
and there's a creeper that's at the store, then call your mom, call your dad, have them come get you. Don't walk back home. Just be aware of your surroundings. Maybe you're walking home. Maybe you're walking to school.
Right.
A lot of kids are, yeah. So you can run up to a house, you can run up to the crossing guard. It just really depends on where you're at. My grandson has a phone with him, so he knows to call 911, he knows to call mom, run up to a teacher, just wherever you're at. If you feel uncomfortable, or if someone at school is making you feel uncomfortable and, you know, wants you to go into the bathroom or wants you to send them a text or whatever's going on, tell a trusted adult. And that's one of the hugest things for all of our children. All of our kids need to have a trusted adult that they can tell anything to, that you're not going to make them wrong, you're going to believe their words, you're not going to dismiss them and poo-poo it. I think a lot of children, I was raped in college. And that's, I think, part of what drives me to help women is I didn't think anybody would believe me. You know, that was back when and it still happens, where the victims are the ones on trial most of the time. You know, if you had dressed differently, spoken differently, didn't do this, didn't do that, you put yourself in that position, whatever. They try to get the blame off of the perpetrator and onto the victim. And why say anything? You know, it's very scary. And there's guys, I mean, to your point about men, guys aren't supposed to be scared. They're supposed to be tough. They're not supposed to cry. They're not supposed to deal with emotional stuff.
Right.
So now you're scared and you want to cry, you want to scream because this stuff is happening to you. And who are you going to tell? You know, you have that thing on you saying that you have to be tough and I can work this out and it's not that bad and whatever. I don't want to look weak.
Right.
So many guys fail to feel that they have the ability to say anything because they don't want to be shamed. They don't want everything to turn around on them and for them to appear weak. You know, I should have fought him off, you know, the whole thing. So there's a whole lot that goes on with all of that.
You know, to touch on what you just said, I had a friend of mine when I was in high school, and you know, we grew up in, well, not grew up, but I met him in high school. We kind of hung out a little bit, and then he went off to college a few years later and stuff. And one of the biggest problems is that he was having was he was gay, and he was raped when he was younger. And when I say younger, I mean a lot younger.
Yeah.
So then he had this battle between, is he gay because he was raped, or is he gay because he's gay? And his family was very orthodox in their beliefs. So then they kind of basically cast him out. Not technically, but they kind of did.
Yeah.
So all the things that came about, which is one of the things that I've seen in hindsight, we're looking at the person as it's happening, they unravel. And it's things, and people are like, oh, what's his problem? Oh, what's this? And it's like, he's not having a problem of the moment, he's having a problem of the last 15, 20 years.
Right, exactly.
And I think a lot of people are quick to dismiss and think, oh, they're crazy, oh, they've got problems, oh, they're this, and just kind of like, as a way to not have to deal with it with them,
Right.
kind of.
Sure.
And to touch on your point, what you're saying is absolutely correct. Because I know people like this who've actually gone through this, and it's almost like a PTSD of sorts, where a person can say a phrase, or they see a certain color
Right.
on a building,
Smell, song.
they lose it.
Yep.
You know, so, and I've seen it, and I don't discount them, don't discredit them.
Yeah.
Try to find out what's going on before
Yeah.
you.
And I think that's a huge point. You know, you've got, so we go into strip clubs once a month. Some of the ladies are there just to dance. You know, some of them are nurses working through nursing school, and they're just there to dance. They're making money to help get them through school. There are some moms that I had one beautiful young lady that her son's birthday was the next day, and she just needed money for a birthday present. You know, these are single moms that are really trying to make it. Some of them are involved in other stuff. Some of them are being trafficked. And so you have a whole spectrum of people that are there choosing to dance and choosing to make money that way. And it's interesting to see, and all of you probably represent what I'm about to say. Some of you, when you hear me say we go into the strip clubs, are going to go, oh, wow, that's amazing. That's really cool that you reach out to the ladies and let them know how much they're loved and accepted, etc. Then there's some of you that are going, oh my gosh, you know, you're talking with them, you know. And then there's some who have been hurt in life through maybe in their marriages that husbands were not where they should be. So there's already a feeling against the women of that. We seem to forget the guy's role in that, but and we love our law enforcement. We work very closely with several law enforcement agencies, but there are a lot of law enforcement that are not trusted by some, because some officers, just like all of us, right? Some officers are arresting the prostitutes for prostitution, not realizing that they're under third-party control. They are not there because they want to be.
What is a third-party control?
Third-party control is when someone else is controlling their money, someone else is forcing them. So human trafficking is when there is force, fraud, or coercion that is, and I want to watch my words since we're going to be on Google. I don't want to be X'd out, so I can't use some of the words. But when there's adult behavior for money, and it's under force, fraud, or coercion. So maybe their passports are being held, maybe they're being threatened with harm to them or their families, or you're going to get beat, or you're not going to eat, or I'm going to kick you out on the street, or don't come home until you've met your quota. You know, that's all third-party control of their behavior. So they're not doing it of their own volition. It's there are some workers out there that just that's their choice for a career, but I would say a good majority are not. And so when you have that, if you don't look beyond face value, you see that homeless person that's sitting on the stoop on the side of the road, and they have their sign up or whatever. You don't know their story. You see a kid that's addicted to drugs, that's roaming the streets. For a lot of times they're just looked down on, that drug addict or that crack kid or, whatever. But you don't know the story. You don't know what got them there. A lot of them, there's a lot of crossover actually with trafficking. A lot of the folks that are addicted to drugs are being trafficked. They're either being controlled through drugs, or they're taking drugs just to make it through the day because they just can't live in the reality of their life. So I am really hoping that someday when stings are done and prostitutes could be arrested for prostitution, that they are not, and more questions are asked. They're taken somewhere to where either we can help get them to safety and away from the life that they're in, but at least ask the question,
right.
Look beyond the surface. Every single one of us has a story. Every single one of us has junk we don't want people to know, right? Every one of you has something. Whether you've come out about it or you haven't, every single one of us has something we don't want people to know, or that we were ashamed of and maybe have confessed since then. Who knows? But these folks are no different than we are, except for they were in a vulnerable spot at some point in their life and either was taken advantage of, and the perpetrators swooped in, or they really just didn't think that they had another choice. They didn't think they had another way out. And I'm really proud of, I'm working with about 6 different girls right now, and one of the young ladies I'm working with, I'm proud of all of them because they're all talking, they're all wanting to make a change. So it's really wonderful.
It's multiplying.
Yeah. And there's one particular one that she actually just told me, I would rather be homeless and be scraping, for what I need for my kids and myself than to live this life anymore and have the kinds of relationships that this life presented. And I'm really proud of her, really, really proud of her. So, but she's got lots of complex trauma, and that's where we need to come around folks. Instead of arresting them and shunning them and walking on the other side of the street and pretending we don't see because we don't want to deal with it, we need resources. We need local resources. And yes, it's happening in Brevard County. It's happening everywhere. It doesn't matter where you're watching us from right now. It is happening in your city. So what is needed in your city? What is needed where you're at? Because something's needed wherever you're at.
One of the things, and like to touch on what you were talking about with prostitution and stuff, it wouldn't be there if there weren't customers.
Right.
Exactly. So I mean, we gotta think about that. And when I lived in Miami, it was just all across the board. Because a lot of people think prostitutes, they think women. There's a lot of men prostitutes out there too.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about, and one of the things that I noticed when I was living in Miami, that it just kind of changed. Those moments that kind of change you a little bit, and just kind of like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
There's one of the guys I had known him for a little bit. I didn't know him for a long time, but I had known him for a little bit, and then all of a sudden he started coming around acting a lot different. And I was kind of like, well, what's going on? Well, it turned out, according to his sister, which I don't know, but according to his sister, he had run into some guys, he was hanging out, doing whatever, had gone on, and then they started doping him. But when they doped him, he's now a fiend. So he's fiending for what they have, and I think
Do
one
what
of
you
the things
gotta
that
do.
people think is, well, just don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I can say as a former addict myself, you can't just say, no,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just walk away.
Yeah, if it was that easy, everybody would.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's something that I think we have to kind of, what's the thing? I once heard a phrase that, and I try to use it as much as I can in daily life, is that they're not giving me a problem, they're having a problem.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? They're not giving me a hard time, they're having a hard time.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And a lot of times when to touch on what you were saying with the prostitution, the drug use, the homelessness, I know one of the biggest things in my heart is homeless vets. And people think that it's just so easy to just get them up and put them in a house or whoever it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people are just so fed up that they've lost all trust and all hope in people around them that they would just rather be there by themselves in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I know there's some people that, but that's just, we could be better. We could do better.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
especially
heck,
with the
a
resources.
tent in the middle of nowhere sometimes sounds really good to me. Like, can I just peace out for a minute? I'd miss my grandkids too much. But
What is it called? A staycation? Or a vacation, a mini vacation, whatever it is? Nobody around?
I get it. I mean, gosh, if you are just pummeled by society over and over and over again, nobody's cutting you a break.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, say, the Vietnam vets that come back and they were disrespected when they came back. They're still being disrespected. And add complex trauma to that. If I hear of, a long-haired guy off in the woods because he just doesn't trust people,
Mm-hmm.
I totally understand. It's like,
100%.
yes, I get it, because we're mean. That we're not very kind as humans a lot of times. So if we can be kinder, that would be amazing.
And kindness is free.
Kindness is free. It does not cost you anything to be kind, to smile, just to not think so highly of yourself that you think that you're better than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And to look down on people because of the shirt they've chosen to wear, or maybe they haven't chosen to wear, maybe they have to wear because of wherever they're at. But it is really sad.
Well, I have a question for you, though.
Yes, sir.
So, let's say I'm a parent. Actually, I am a parent. Not let's say. I am a parent, okay? No pretend here.
Let's say.
So, hypothetically.
Hypothetically
So, I'm in a
speaking.
store, or I'm at the parks, or I'm at wherever. What are some of the things that I can spot, or that I can go, wait a minute, and what are the things that I can do? Like, for example, I don't know if this person adopted that kid, but that kid is acting like, not strange, but it's kind of like, there's something not, again, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So, well, I'd rather be wrong than be right and not having done anything. But
Right.
what are some of the things that I should look for? And what are some of the things that I can do as to not raise a whole lot of unwanted, because I don't want them to run. I don't want that, if there is something wrong.
Right.
Do you get what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what can I do with that?
So again, it really depends on the situation. It can be very varied. It can be different. However, there's some pretty common stuff that if you see, maybe you have an older person with a very much younger person, could be a parent and a child, could be a grandparent and a child. But if that person, that young child is like really struggling a lot and like looks down, like won't make eye contact, or if you walked up to them and you're like, hey, how's it going today, and making small talk, and that little kid just would not look at you at all, no eye contact, and then if you ask them a question, if they look at the other person like, can I talk? Now sometimes that's
Like
normal.
a permission-based.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes that's normal with kids and parents. Like, should I talk to this stranger? But say you're in Wawa and it's an older person, like maybe it's a teenager with an older adult, and that's happening. Like, they're not in charge of their own money. The other person's paying for their stuff. They don't look appropriately dressed. And again, no eye contact, and they're just very skittish. They don't, and maybe you just make small talk, like, hey, how's it going? Maybe you buy them a soda or something, just to kind of engage. We don't recommend, like, if you're out on the streets, don't approach someone that you think is being trafficked or a trafficker. Don't approach them. But if you really suspect something's funky, and again, trust your gut, you call the security. Call the local police and say, hey, there's a situation that's going down, and I really feel like it's not right. I have a lady that was talking to me about, she was at a restaurant she and her friend were at a restaurant, and they saw a guy that was very, very much older than this young girl, and watched for a minute, to see, is it just dad and daughter, grandpa and daughter, whatever. But he was all like way too all over her, and way too much affection for there to be a dad and daughter. So at that point, they had asked, what do we do? And I would say, I would probably go to the hostess or the manager and say, can you please, I would call the local police and have them come do a well check, or come something to show up. And there's sometimes, depending on if you're at a vantage point where you can catch their eye and say, you can mouth, are you okay? Do you need help? Sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no, depending on how scared they are. Again, if you can get away to a place where you can make a phone call, you take pictures of what they look like.
Right.
If there's a car that you see them get into, if you're able to get a picture of that. This is all, perfect scenario. You can't always do this, but say something. If you can log, a lot of times when you want to report something to the hotline, they want to know where you saw them, what the address was, what they looked like. So any of those notes that you can take, or photos that you can take, that if they go into a house, that's even better, because now you have the address.
Right.
But you can at least call it in and then let the authorities handle it. If you are in a situation yourselves and you need help, somebody is pressuring you, something doesn't feel comfortable, if you don't have a trusted adult, feel free to reach out to us. Reach out to any of the hotlines that we'll put in the video, underneath the video, and Facebook, wherever you're seeing this on social media. We'll have some hotlines for you. You can email us, you can call us. I've got parents that call me often and ask, will you help with our daughter, with our son, with this situation? And we'll get you in touch with folks that can help. So I don't know if that answers.
No, that absolutely helps.
Some of for the older kids and the young women, there's tattoos that are branding tattoos that if you see, and you don't want to
don't be up in the grill.
15 minutes looking at all their tattoos, but if you notice, say there's a barcode on someone, that's a pretty good indicator that they're stuck in a life they don't want to be in. Try to get a picture, try to get, see if maybe you buy them a soda or just something, or are you okay? Can I help you with anything? And just try to kind of see what's going on. If she's with somebody that's really close to her though and watching her, then just don't approach. But if you can catch your eye away from him, then you can maybe make eye contact and just, are you good? You okay? Or come over here. And I'm a little bolder maybe than most, not most, but many. So I'm not going to necessarily tell you things I would do, because I wouldn't recommend you always do those.
Right.
But there are some things you guys can do, and not put yourself in a harmful situation. But your local law enforcement are there to help and protect. Store managers, a lot of them have been trained to what to watch for. And even if they haven't, hopefully they're a trusted adult that you can say, you need to check this or flip on your cameras, or a lot of the convenience stores and places have cameras. So trust that they've got that going on.
So with all that you've had going on over the past 3 years, which again 3 years, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So where do you see yourself going in the next 3 years with the new life, and what you want to inspire or partake in, expand, whatnot? So what are your visions for that?
Awesome. Well, thank you for asking that, because I'm super excited, because there's been so much that has happened in the last 3 years.
Yes.
So we've, I sent out a list of all the things that we did last year, and I was overwhelmed. And I just shout out to all of our volunteers. We have so many volunteers. We have, always need more in different capacities, but we've got organizations that support us. We've got volunteers that are amazing. But we were able to, so every month we bring gift bags into the strip clubs, and we love on the ladies there. So there's always a need for toiletries and stuff, and bags and notes for us there. We gave away 111 backpacks this school year to needy kids. So that was really cool. We've placed several folks in safe homes. We don't currently have a safe home ourselves. That, to your question, is one of the things. And we have worked a few operations and gotten, we've been able to place and help get placed several folks over the last 3 years. And we've cleared about a dozen victims' criminal records. So they're good to go. You saw the testimony of one at our gala, that she has a fantastic job now working with an attorney, and none of her records show up anymore, so she's clear. And so that we've got several that have that same experience. So going forward, our gala, we are raising money to open a drop-in center this year. That is my goal for this year. I really want to open a drop-in center and cafe. We did look at a property last week. I don't know if we're going to take it or not, but we are moving forward and looking for properties. And I'll put a plug out there. If you are an owner of a property that is retail that we can utilize for a drop-in center and a cafe, and you would like to be a part of the solution here in Brevard County, especially Southern Brevard is where I would prefer. I'm a 501c3, so we can give you the tax write-off, and you can donate that to us. So if you'd like to partner with us in that capacity, I'd very much love that. We also are hoping to, not this year, but we have plans to open a safe house as well. So right now we have an emergency shelter. So if somebody needed out right now, tonight, we have a place we can take them while we're waiting to get them into a program. So we've got lots of resources that we can hook people up with. And then eventually our jail and prison outreach will most likely be next year. But for this year, the main things are we're refurbishing the emergency safe shelter, and working with a local ministry here to do that. And I won't disclose who that is because I don't want to give away the location, but really grateful for these guys. And then our drop-in center cafe, I'm really, really, really excited about that and want to get that going. So we always need, every one of us is a volunteer. None of us get paid for doing any of this. So again, huge shout out to all of our volunteers and all of our donors. We've had some amazing, amazing donors over the years. And if you want to join us, we ask for prayer support. We ask for financial support. If you can do a trade, like if you're an electrician or a builder or whatever you do, and you want to be a part of making a difference with our folks that we serve, then there is plenty of opportunity. Yeah, so.
You know, one of the greatest things that we can do is we can be of service to other people, especially those in need, you know. And you know, I really like the fact that you just pointed out, number one, if you can do something like a trade or something, that there's so many, because a lot of people, and I hate to say it, but most of the time when you hear trying to help organizations, you think either money in an envelope or what do I have to do? But now the things you can do, which go along with the trade, which go along with what you already know how to do, and it makes it a lot easier, especially the more people you have, the easier it gets, the bigger the village, right?
Yeah.
So before we end on this note, but before we do, what are some of the things, like we're down here in South Florida, right? And of course there's 95 over here, and there's a lot of things going on, right? So when we want to help and we want to do things, what are some of the places, or the like addresses if you can, or some of the organizations that you work with which can help as well? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, where is the cafe?
So our cafe, we don't have it open yet.
Okay.
So that's the Drop-In Center Cafe that we're still looking for a location. So really hoping that that is something that materializes. We're believing for that for this year. I did have our boutique, which it was, right now it's in Cocoa, but we're moving it. So we're changing. Yeah, we're changing all of that stuff is actually going into storage. So we are the end of April right now for the next month. So I don't know when y'all are going to be listening to this broadcast, but if you're still within April, May of 2022, we still have stuff, and contact us and you can go shopping. I'm going to have it in a storage, still being sold and on Marketplace. So that's going on. Other organizations.
So where would we donate, like if we wanted to donate book bags or toiletries and stuff like that, where would we go to give those things?
To an actual location. You would, for right now, I would say contact me.
Okay.
And I'll give you a drop-off location for those things. And we would very much appreciate that. And toiletries. Probably the best would be just to contact me, because I don't want to inundate the church and have everybody showing up at the church to drop off stuff.
You get toothbrushes, you get toothbrushes.
Yeah, but just contact me and we'll get you a location to drop that stuff off. And
we'll have all the information on the post as well. So
yeah, but there are some. To your point, there's some really great organizations that we do work with and we do partner with. I will say that there are some organizations that we do not partner with, and my ask of you is please vet. And what I mean by vetting is make sure you look into that organization. Make sure they're legitimate, not because your friend told you or not because they have a pretty website, but make sure that it's truly a legitimate organization, that they do what they say they're doing, and that the money is truly going to whom they say they're serving. There are a lot of bad organizations out there, and so I get that it's like you just kind of throw up your hands and go, well, then who do we trust? It's like, how do we do that? But trust your gut, and sometimes you're going to give to organizations that aren't the best, and you'll find out later. But you gave with a good heart. You thought that the money was going to the right place. But I will ask that you give to local organizations. Please support your local organizations.
Keep it local.
If you have a question about a particular organization, and I'll say, please vet me. I mean, look me up. Look up on. However, I am an open book. So whatever you need to know from me, I'm happy to share. And I have actual clients and survivors that can speak to not just one that I have trained to say what they need to say, but actual many folks that can speak to what we do. So just be careful. Not everybody is who they say they are. So, and if you ask me, I'm happy to share with you. But there's some really great organizations out there too, and for different things too. There's a great organization here for domestic violence,
Okay.
and that we refer to a lot. And then for safe homes here in Brevard, I don't work with any safe homes here in Brevard. I send everybody to Tampa side or Jacksonville, or I have some partners in Orlando or outside of the state.
Mm.
So right now, as it stands, I move folks out of Brevard.
No, it kind of takes them out of what they're in.
Right
You know
there,
what I mean?
what they're in. Yep.
Just get them out as
Exactly.
quickly as possible.
Exactly.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Well, Kim, thank you so much for taking the time to kind of come and talk to us, educate us
Yeah.
about all the things that we probably didn't know before, but now we do. So on the post, I'm gonna go ahead and put, and you know, with everything else, all the information where they can find phone numbers if need be, things like
Perfect.
that.
Awesome.
But if you guys need any more information, she's an open book. She'd be more than willing to help you, and I'll
Yeah.
have everything for you.
Awesome. And you can check us out. The website is www.anewinternational.org. Our toll-free number is 844-HOPE-ANEW. So those are easy to remember, 844-HOPE-ANEW. And
I
then
like that.
we'll put all the hotlines and stuff for you guys too. So thank you for having me. Thank you for listening. And if you see something, say something. If you see something,
Absolutely.
do something. Look beyond the surface and choose to be a part of the solution. Choose to make a difference.
Beautiful.
God
Thank
bless
you guys for helping us to get to 321 on a new life. All right. See you guys next time.